Hey Floriana, good morning. It's a little windy out here today. Hey Mama, good morning. It's so funny because I actually think, oh, it's evening for you. Good evening then. I always forget the time differences. It turns out I actually accidentally went live earlier when I was setting up. Had no idea that I had pressed like the button. So sorry for anyone who tuned in and saw a very perplexed me staring at the camera. I was not aware that I was actually doing that. And so I'm actually excited for the Mai Tai today. We actually tried them this weekend and they were really good. And disclaimer, everyone is going to have their own Mai Tai recipe. Yep, everyone is going to have their own Mai Tai recipe. So this is just the chairman's version of the Mai Tai. So obviously if you have your favorite Mai Tai recipe and you don't want to detract from that, you don't have to. But if you're looking for a Mai Tai recipe, this is actually a pretty good one. Alright, so it is, let's see here. You guys know I like to be pretty prompt, so how do you tell what time it is? Alright, so it is after 10. Bonjour tout le monde, aujourd'hui c'est vendredi. Et puis disait, et puis top pour l'épisode of Rum Shop Talks. So as I forecasted in my reminder yesterday, I will be showing you guys how to make the chairman's Mai Tai. And if you were just joining in, I was saying how I tried it, loved it, and I'm excited to share that with you. So we're just gonna jump and get started. And as I've done with the prior recipes, I'm gonna put the recipe in the comments below if you wanted to try it. I did try it out this weekend and really enjoyed it. So this actually has a lot more ingredients than we usually do for our drinks. And so let's get started. I have my mixing cup here with the measurements. I wanted to use that one because it's got the measurements on it. You need, of course, your Chairman's rum, your Chairman's Reserve rum, not spiced, just the regular kind. Then I'm throwing in a new ingredient. This is rum agricole. It is from Martinique. I was able to find it here in Southern California. I know my neighbor just stopped in to say hi, you guys. So this I was able to find at High Time Liquors in Newport Beach. So if you're in Southern California, I was able to find that there, and it wasn't that pricey. I want to say about $30 a bottle. Then we have a Creole shrub. This is like an orange liqueur, also from Martinique, and also was able to find it at High Times as well. So you Southern California people, High Times was the place to go to source all of the ingredients, all my liquor ingredients for this drink. Next, I made, which I had to make, I should have, this is like a sugar cane syrup. I used a brown sugar, raw sugar in the raw brown sugar, and dissolved that with water and boiled it to make the sugar cane syrup. So we have that here, and of course we have fresh squeezed lime juice. And I want to pronounce this correctly, you guys. It's orgeat. I think I heard it pronounced O-R-G-E-A-T syrup, and it is an almond syrup. I also got that at High Times, and so I'm gonna assume that you can get it at any kind of specialty liquor shop. So we've got all our ingredients. Of course, we have our glass and our shot measuring glass. And so this is a 2 ounce shot glass that we're gonna be using for our measurements. All right, we're gonna get started here. I got my cup. Let me put my mixer down here, and then we'll get started. First, you need, I'm gonna make this for like 2 people. So if it's just it's just you wanting to make a 1 drink, just divide all of the ingredients by half. You need 2 ounces of your Chairman's Reserve. In here. Actually, this is a 1 ounce measurement, my bad. So I'm gonna put 2 of these in here for my 2 ounces. Yep, there it is. 2 ounces of the Chairman's Reserve. Next, we're gonna put 2 ounces of the Rum Agricole. I have to say, hey Key, hey Johnny, welcome. Making this made me realize why Mai Tais are so strong. I was like, how many cans of liquor do I have to put in there? So we've got 1 and 2. 2 ounces of the Rum Agricole. And it was interesting doing the research for this, because with the different kinds of rum, you want to know the history behind this. And so definitely look up the research for this. It looks like it's only made in Martinique, and it's there's a special way of making it using pure sugarcane juice. And so this, I have to say, all of this experience of making rum drinks for you guys is educating me a lot about the different kinds of liquors out there, how they're made, especially Caribbean rums. And so I'm getting a lesson and hopefully you guys are getting a lesson too. We're gonna do 1 ounce of the Creole Shrub. And of course I had to taste every one of these by themselves before I put them in here. And this is actually sweet. The Rum Agricole has a sharper, it's supposed to be earthy, kind of grassy taste to it. You could kind of, if you like concentrate, you could kind of actually get that from tasting it. It's definitely, it tastes different than the Chairman's Reserve. And so that was pretty interesting. And my theory is that all of these different drinks just are there to add complexity to your drink. So stoked on that. Next, we're gonna do 2 ounces of fresh lime juice. Hopefully we have enough. 1 and 2. And then we need 1 ounce of the Auger syrup. If someone knows how to actually pronounce this correctly, definitely let me know, because I think I'm saying it wrong. And this is also sweet tasting, this almond syrup. And then finally, we need 1 ounce of the sugarcane syrup. And look, you guys, I think I boiled it too much because it actually ended up crystallizing in the fridge. Okay, this is taking too long. I am impatient. Here we go. And this is our final ingredient. It smells really good, very citrusy, kind of what you expect a Mai Tai to smell like. So I would say I'm excited to taste it, but I already know what it tastes like. I got a little bit of the syrup on my finger. And so this is what it looks like after you give it a good, supposed to give it a shake, but my shaker is metal, so you guys wouldn't be able to see all of this goodness in here, so I wanted you guys to be able to see. So that's why I'm using this instead of shaking. And we're using crushed ice. So I just run a couple of ice cubes in my blender just now to create the crushed ice here. And then here you go, and you just pour that onto your ice. And you're supposed to garnish it with whatever your leftover lime, but I squeezed it and threw it out because I forgot I was supposed to use it. And meat, Liz, I meant to grab some meat from the yard, but didn't do that. But here you go. Here's your Chairman's Mai Tai. Like I said, I tried it. It's absolutely delicious. Yep, just like I remembered. Really good. So I invite you guys to try it. I will put the recipe in the comments below. And we're gonna move on to our legal portion of our show today. I actually came across this question this week and I thought it was very interesting and wanted to share it with you. So this wife was asking, she basically was like, you know, I'm a spendthrift, I have terrible spending habits, I'm terrible with money. My husband has been the one who's been working and managing all our finances. He keeps me in check. And we just realized that we're actually worth, you know, a substantial amount. They were worth $3.5 million. And her question was, how can, if my husband was the first to pass away, how can he from the grave protect me from myself, right? Now, no judgments here, but how many of you men and women, because it's, you know, we all have our vices, how many of you guys can resonate with this person where you're thinking, you know what, I have terrible spending habits, you know, I don't save, I want to buy everything I see, and feel like that's something that could really, you know, be applicable to you, because I know a lot of people who love to spend, and so I figured that a lot of people would resonate with this question. What I find interesting is she's basically owning her own truth and saying, you know what, I know what I'm like. I like the situation as it is, and I'd like it to continue so I don't blow our inheritance with my husband and everything that my husband and I have worked for after he's not here to keep me in check anymore. So in a situation like that, if a client like that came to me, one of the things that we definitely would recommend is having the husband having them create their revocable trust, of course, but making sure that the successor trustee is not the wife. That is one way to make that happen, right? The reason why you wouldn't want the wife to be the trustee is because the trustee is the person who manages the estate manages the estate. And that's the person who will be paying all the bills, collecting the assets, making sure taxes are filed, all of that good stuff, right? So if the spouse doesn't want to be the one managing that because she knows that she won't pay the bills and she'll just, like, you know, go buy a new car because she feels like it, then having her not be in that position is the first thing we want to do. But who should we have in that position instead, right? If it's not the wife, who should be the right person? So I would say last year I had a client, and he and his wife, it was a second marriage, and they were creating their estate plan, and that was something for him to consider. He wanted to make sure that if something happened to him, that his wife would have enough money to be able to continue her standard of living. And but he wanted his daughter to be the successor trustee, and that was a conversation that he and I had to have of, do you think she's the right person for this job? What are some of the reasons that could potentially eliminate daughter from being in that position? Does she and mom or stepmom get along? You don't want to, the way I approach estate planning is we're trying to avoid conflict. And so that for me in my head was like, the alarm bells were like ding, 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 ding. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, I could see so much potential conflict having a stepdaughter be the trustee. So that was something that he had to, like, you know, really think about and honestly approach and answer. Is my daughter the right person? Will putting my daughter in the position to manage my trust estate for my wife, would that be the right call? You know, so that's one thing that you have to think about when you're thinking about who you appoint as that person. One of the other things that we need to think about, you know, when we think about family, you know, the time involved in this process. Being a trustee is not an easy job. If any of you guys have had any experience with trust administrations, you'll know that, and just the way I try to explain it to people is, think about all the things that you do in your life on a daily basis. Paying your bills, you know, filing your taxes, doing your investing, saving, managing all of that stuff, right? Someone has to come in and basically take that over. That is the job of the trustee. So it's a lot of work. So when you appoint someone for that position, you gotta be wondering, you know, does the person have the time or the willingness to do this? And I have no idea how long my wife is gonna live, you know, that the person is gonna have to do this job for a long time. So that's consideration number 2 you have to think about. One, will appointing that person cause more conflict? And 2, does the person have the willingness at the time to do the job? The third thing you want to think about is manipulation. So for my client who was thinking about his daughter, will his daughter be able to say no to mom when she comes and says, I would like to invest in my friends, like in a restaurant? You know, it's a great idea. I think my friend's gonna be successful. You know, will that kid be able to say no to mom? Because if the kid can't say no to mom, then the kid should not be the person for the job, because mom is gonna end up having kid help her spend through the money. So kid, more often than not, I don't recommend having a child be the trustee to manage for a parent. So who would I recommend instead? We usually use either corporate fiduciaries or private fiduciaries. So a fiduciary is pretty much a fancy word for trustee and agent. It is a person that steps into a position and basically steps into your position and like manages your affairs for you. So private fiduciaries, the reason why we use them is because they are a little bit lax on the value of the estate. So that's something that we also need to consider, the value of the estate, and whether we're gonna go to a corporate fiduciary. Corporate fiduciaries meaning like, you know, First American Title, for example, is a corporate fiduciary. Banks with trust administration departments, financial advising firms with trust administration departments are also corporate fiduciaries. And private fiduciaries, of course, are individuals that have their own firms that do this kind of work. So we usually have to like decide, you know, which way we want to go. But often enough, that's who I would recommend, is having a third party who the surviving spouse has to go and say, hey, I want to do this risky thing, or I want to do this thing, and have that person be in the position of like, yeah, that's a good idea, no, that's not a good idea, and to help people curb those impulses that they have to spend a significant amount of money when it becomes available to them. This is also something that we do with children as well. When, you know, children are inheriting, we also use that to help curb those impulses. And so this is like I said, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I know a lot of women out there or men out there have that impulse to just spend, and if your spouse is the one who's managing everything, when he or she is gone, you still feel the need to have that check. I do have to say though that as much as that kind of control sounds good in theory, in practice that kind of control can cause conflict. So sometimes I do recommend to people, and I would recommend to anyone who's thinking about this, is if you have spending impulse control issues, that you dive into maybe like, you know, why that is. Maybe start learning how to be more fiscally responsible, because always when you have another person making decisions for an adult, it is fraught with conflict and potential for concern. So this is how I would recommend managing it. So if you feel like you're in this position, definitely you want to have an estate plan, and know that there are things that we can do to help you so that your inheritance can actually last for your lifetime. I always say, like, you know, if you have any questions, that would be the time to ask them. But often enough, you guys really ever have questions. I wish you would. But you could always ask them in the comments below. Let me know if any of this stuff resonates with you. Also, let me know if there's any topics that you would like to hear from. I'm good at talking about anything. And so before I leave, here's one thing that I would like to do for the next couple of months going forward is for you guys in the United States, you know, we are heading into the election cycle. The DNC just wrapped up their convention. The RNC will be getting on theirs next week. Definitely be paying attention to this election because it's very important. Not saying that all elections aren't important, but this one is very important. Probably, you know, more important than a lot of them. And so here's my question to you guys. Are you registered to vote? Do you know if you registered to vote? If you registered to vote and then you moved, have you checked and made sure that your registration is updated? If you haven't, get on the website and do it now. iwillvote.com. Get to it. Also, are you gonna be the person who wants to do mail-in voting, or do you want to go stand in line and brave coronavirus with everyone else? Because based on which type of voting you want to do, now's the time to get on that website and request your mail-in ballot, you guys. We want to make sure that we are, you know, it's like if you are in the position to vote, you want to make sure that you are exercising that right. It is a right, you know, for United States citizens to be able to exercise that fundamental, you know, right to vote. And so you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that. You're doing it. Is so important to do this year. So I will be reminding you guys every Friday going forward to register to vote, register for your mail-in ballot, get ready, get up with the candidates. Your local elections, what we've realized, is just as important and sometimes much more important than the federal elections. So make sure that you are tapped into your local elections, your county elections, your state elections. Learn about the props, learn about the candidates, figure out what you need to do, and most importantly, go out there on November 3rd and vote, okay? So with that, I'm hopping off my my pulpit. I'm gonna thank you guys for stopping in, spending some time with me, and learning about estate planning while learning also how to make St. Lucian drinks. I wish you guys a happy Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you guys next week here for another episode of Rum Shop Talks. Bye!